Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Retire While You Work podcast. My name is Carson Odom, Wealth Advisor here at Adams Wealth Partners, joined by Miles Zuger, another wealth advisor, and Jerry Ann, our Director of Operations. It's good to be back. I was on vacation last week with my wife, celebrating our 10-year anniversary, which is quite fitting because today we're going to talk about vacations and budgeting for them, spending for them, that sort of thing. Miles, where did you go? You went somewhere in May too.
Yeah, my wife and I just recently went to Spain, beginning of May for a week. It was awesome. It was a trip someplace we definitely want to go back. But I feel like we say that just about every time we travel. We're like, oh, that was so great. We need to go back. But then it's hard because there's, even within the US, several other places we'd like to visit or that we want to try and go back to. And it just becomes, you can't be everywhere at once and you have to be here occasionally to work, I suppose. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I feel that way too. After getting back, it's like I think it's the greatest place that we've ever been. So I'm like, oh yeah, everybody should go there. But there's also a gazillion places to go, and there's a lot of great places across the world, and like you said, in the U.S. that are great vacation destinations. And then,
Well, I
Durian, you
haven't
have a
even
trip.
haven't even gone on a vacation yet this
I was
year.
about to say you have a trip coming up though.
I do. We're going to go to 30A this year. What we do with vacations is we like to take our kids. So and one of my kids is married now. So there's 6 of us total. So we try to do like a big trip, maybe out of the country every 3 or so years. And then on those kind of off years, we'll go to the beach and just go to Florida, 30A. That's what we're doing this year. But yeah, that's kind of leading into how we budget for those different trips is what we're talking about today. Like, how do where do you want to go? When do you want to go? How much does it cost? Who are you taking? All that kind of stuff.
So, how do you budget for trips, Durian?
Oh, well, I don't. No, I'm just kidding. Once we decide what we want to do and we figure out the cost, we figure out, okay, what do we have in savings that we've kind of earmarked for travel? And then how much more do we need to add to it in the next 6 months, 8 months, whatever, to actually take that trip? And so in the past, when we would just pull it out, like my husband would get a big bonus from work every year, actually. And so we would just pull it from that. He has a different job now, so it works a little differently. So we do actually have to kind of budget for it. But those big years that we go like out of the country or something, those are kind of the ones that you really have to plan for.
So it would be in the past where he would get a bonus and you would use that over the next year to kind of fund some big purchases.
Yep, he would. We would use it to fund our vacation, pay taxes, new tire. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But for vacation, that was easy when that was happening to go on a bigger trip. But now if we want to go to Europe or whatever, and we want to take all 6 of us, we're going to definitely have to monthly put some money aside to make that happen.
Yeah. David's in the background there. If you're watching the video, just checking in on everybody coming back from lunch.
Where was he in your window? I missed it.
Yeah, he was.
He was.
Yep.
Making sure we're working.
That's right.
No, that makes sense. I think everybody can kind of budget differently, obviously, when it comes to money and finances and vacations. And for us, it's, I feel like we have a sense of we've gotten to okay, we spend X amount of dollars on travel throughout the year. So for us, it's more of a broad, okay, we've got this much money we can allocate towards vacations on a given year. So we know that, okay, what are we going to use that money towards? Do we want to do like for us, it was okay, I'd like to do specifically one big trip for our anniversary, which was last week for this year. So maybe that means not doing 1 or 2 other trips throughout the year because it's going to cost a little bit more money and be a little bit more expensive. And then we have like we every year in June, we always go down to Destin and go to the beach for the week with our family and some other friends. And that's always easy because that's just a cash deal because it's a family friend that lets us stay in those condos. So that's easy. But yeah, those bigger trips for us have always been where we just know, okay, here's our X amount of dollars we're going to spend on travel this next year. And over time, that's gone up. And I think that's been something that one of the biggest things I value now is spending time, A, on trips that I'm able to do with my wife alone, but also B, that I'm able to do with my kids, because those are great memories.
And and Miles, I'm going to ask you in a second, but I just wanted to say real quick that traveling now in general is way more expensive than it used to be. I mean, every little thing about it. So there's no more $2,000, trips to the beach, and it's outrageous. But so
$2,000
Miles,
nights at the beach.
right, right. So
Yeah.
Miles, how do y'all say for
Yeah,
vacation?
I feel like we kind of like at the start of the year, like maybe think, hey, we'd love to like, maybe like an international trip like we did with Spain, and then we love to go to Colorado in the summer. So like trying to squeeze that in, and then I feel like there's maybe always like one or two longer weekend trips that we'll think about. Obviously, like going to Spain, that's going to be one of the more expensive trips we use. We know that's kind of like our big one, and then just building into budget through like some monthly savings. All right, here's money that's going to go towards Colorado, and then here's money that just kind of tucking away for whatever we know we're going to do later on in the year also. So it's kind of a balance of just looking at things at the beginning of the year, making sure it's built into our kind of monthly annual budget, and then I think always just making sure we have a little bit of cash set aside in case there is something that kind of pops up last minute. That's maybe a 3 or 4 day weekend trip, even if we're just driving it, knowing there's obviously going to be costs for food and staying wherever we're going to stay. So because I'm not a camper, so we're definitely not pitching a tent and sleeping somewhere in the woods.
You're a glamper.
That's right. That's right.
I was going to say that a lot of times now it's kind of like, especially if you're going on a big trip, you may plan that out like a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going through certain companies or VRBO or Airbnb or whatever, and you want to go and it costs a certain amount, they allow you, you don't have to pay all of that at once. So if you know that you're going to be putting a certain amount away each month, you can still maybe go ahead and book that trip. You're not going to have to put that money down in one lump sum most of the time. So
I would actually agree with that. It's a good point, Jerry. It's like when we went to Spain, I think we had obviously flights paid for, and I think maybe even the hotels paid for like a month ahead of time. So you're able to like spread that cost out to where when we got there, the only money that we like knew we were going to be spending is basically like for food. And then if we wanted to get some souvenirs or something like that. So
right.
Yeah, that was it for us.
Yeah,
I mean, we had just some real life. We booked it in November of this past year, and 50% was due whenever we booked it, and then the remaining 50% was due 30 days prior. So it was definitely a more expensive trip. That was easier to spread out. We've always booked flights. We fly Southwest. We've always booked flights with points. Like we just end up racking up enough points throughout the year where all of our trips we're able to use our points on. So that's a kind of a big relief just because we don't ever have to. Then again, we're also doing domestic, and it's substantially less money flying domestic than it is flying, across the world over to Europe and something like that. But
we're not giving tips on travel here, but booking your flights earlier does save you money. So that is just one little tip. If you're trying to plan for a vacation and you're going to fly, book them, usually as early as you can, because you will save some money there.
Yep, definitely.
I'm personally a fan. It might be a little old school, but I like taking a little bit of cash on vacation too, because if I can sell some random thing around the house, somebody pays you in cash or whatever. To me, that is it is quote unquote pretend money, like it doesn't exist.
Oh, absolutely.
Balance sheet. Therefore, if I take it and I spend it on vacation, I didn't even spend any money on vacation. I just that was new money that didn't even exist before. So therefore, when I spend it on vacation, it's like it wasn't even there in the first place. So, but I like that just because it gives you a little bit of, what hits the budget isn't as much as what it could have been because you had a little bit of cash to apply towards purchases. I don't know. Maybe there's just something mentally about that. I like that.
Well, one thing Josh, my husband, does or did that surprised me. He didn't tell me about it because he knew I would probably.
This could have went bad too. Jerry didn't know this could have went bad. Keeping secrets.
Yeah, true. When he would go to the grocery store or Walgreens or wherever that you could get cash back, he would always get cash back, and then he put it away. And then so we went on a big trip, and all of a sudden we had $3,000 of spending money that I did not know that we had. So because he had been saving that money up for a while. So
do you mean like cash back when you used to pay with a debit card and you could be like, hey, I want $20 out or something or whatever?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if he did groceries, he'd get like an extra $50 or whatever. Yeah. It adds up.
It does. It is nice too. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like some places in the US, if you're traveling domestically, maybe don't like cash isn't maybe as you don't use as much cash, but it's definitely when you go international, I feel like
Oh,
they still
sure.
use like a ton of
Very
cash. So
prominent.
to
Yeah.
Carson's point, it's like if or to your point, Jerry, and both of you guys, if you've saved up some cash over the year and then you convert it into whatever their currency is, it's like very normal to spend that over there. And then it's obviously not
Yeah.
money that's hitting your credit card or debit card, whatever it might be that you're having to account for after you get back.
That's right. Biggest thing is I think, as a takeaway summary point is be prepared when you're traveling. Like it can be very easy to just slap a vacation on a credit card and saying we'll figure it out later. Yes, it'll be a worth it trip, but also following that credit card bill is still going to be there. And is it a trip that, if it's a once in a lifetime trip that you're taking your whole family to, you can never do it again. I don't know. I like to say make good financial decisions, but also there's sometimes where, we've talked to people where they make that trip and they're still working on paying it off and they never regret it just because it was worth that much in its weight for the memories and the time that you spend with family, which I think also speaks to just how important traveling is. And it doesn't, you hear people talking about traveling, going across the world to Europe and Asia and all these other countries. It can be like Miles talked about, hiking at a campsite an hour out of your hometown. Like there's so many great state parks here in the state of Tennessee that people go camping and spend time with their family. But I think the moral of the story is spending time with your family and spending time with loved ones. It is worth so much more than the price that you pay for it. It's so worth it. I think we're all big proponents of traveling and spending time with family and time away from work and the chaos of your normal routine. But the best way to go about it is, proactively save for it, save beforehand, know how you're going to end up paying for it so that burden's not there whenever you get back home.
Yeah, without a one thing that really like kind of flipped. I feel like, as we said, traveling can be an expensive thing, and so you need to be responsible with it also and plan for it. But one thing that kind of flipped my mindset was I saw a quote, and it was this was recently I saw this, but it was if you're lucky, you maybe get like 70 or 80 like summers in your entire life, like good ones where you're an adult making money and able to afford these things, and then once retired, you have maybe 20 good ones, depending on what age you retire, 20 to 30 good ones where you're healthy enough to be able to take the trips. And so if you think over the course of your life, you have 80 summers to be able to take a trip, you need to try and take advantage of as many of those as you possibly can. And I think it's something that we really encourage a lot of clients to do, especially if you're a client of ours or have worked with us before, we're building financial plans. Travel is something that we build in for everybody because most people, it's something they say they want to do and build into their financial plan. And we're always budgeting that as its own expense. And, to what Carson just said, travel doesn't have to mean you're going to Europe and spending $20,000 and doing it as big as you can. You can try and keep it on a budget when you go over there, or you're just traveling domestically and saving a little bit of money, maybe doing a road trip. And so traveling, when I'm looking at it, working with clients, it's different for everybody. Some people spend, a couple $1,000s on their trips, and that's what they love to do. And it's going to the beach or driving out west and spending some time in some national parks. And others they want to go to Europe once or twice a year and spend a little bit more money or travel around the world. And that obviously gets more expensive. So it's just about finding what you want to do and what works. But again, you only get so many opportunities to be able to do that. And so if you're lucky, you need to be able to take advantage of those.
Yeah. And if you want to travel and you don't think you have enough money, work on your budget, build it in, start saving a little to the side, create a tradition of every year taking some kind of trip. But I think it's definitely doable. You can, a little bit over a while will go a long way.
I think all this is in line with the retire while you work principle that David established, when he founded the practice. And it all comes back to doing what you want to, doing what you love with those that you love, which is one of our core principles here that we encourage clients to live by also. And so it's all about making memories and, maybe passing down a little bit less money to that next generation. But the memories you can create if you're doing some of this stuff as a family go much further than I think that ever does.
That's right. So. Well, good deal. Well, that's it. A little bit lighter episode, but definitely important things to think about and kind of a core part of our philosophy, like Miles said, spending time doing what you love with those that you love. So hopefully this was helpful to you. But of course, if anyone ever has any questions or has ideas for topics, feel free to reach out to myself, Miles, or Jerry Ann. We're always happy to hear thoughts and answer some questions. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Retire While You Work podcast.